Elliot. I'm a Cambridge Natural Sciences graduate and recently finished the postgraduate diploma in law, so the PGDL, which is like a law conversion course. And so I thought I would tell you a little bit about my time at Cambridge, about the course Natural Sciences, why I like how I found it and like why I chose it. Admittedly, I did the course from 2019 to 2022, so things have changed. So I would definitely recommend kind of looking into if you're interested, looking into the course on their website and seeing if it's for you and not taking just my word for it, because things have definitely changed. Like, I'm not sure if all the courses are the same or if they still do the same courses. So why I chose it. So I chose natural sciences at Cambridge for several reasons. For one, I always loved science and maths, and like sciences were one of my favourite subjects. I couldn't decide between which science, but I thought I might specialise in chemistry or material science, but I wasn't sure. So the Cambridge Natural Sciences course allowed me to kind of try different science subjects and see which one I liked the best. And in the end, I didn't even specialise in chemistry or material science, I specialised in psychology. So very different. I also chose it because it was challenging. Like, I've always been a person that likes a challenge, and knowing that I could go into a course which was like renowned for being quite hard and intense, but also really getting to like deep into your subject, I really wanted to do that. So that's kind of why I chose it. I also, apart from like the course itself, I also really like the collegiate system at Cambridge. Like, I wanted to be part of a college. I knew like their welfare support might be like more in depth. I'm not going to talk about that now, but like I can talk about it in the future. But like I thought that it would be more in depth and more supportive. I also just like the idea of supervisions, which is like small group teaching frequently. So yeah, those are some of the reasons I chose natural sciences at Cambridge. So what was my first year like? First year was really, really hard. I did maths, I did material science, chemistry, and physics. So I was a physical scientist initially. But it was a really interesting course. Like, we went into great depth in our subjects. Well, not like depth, it was only first year, but like we did a lot. I spent a lot of time in lectures. I did 9 lectures a week, 12 lectures a week, plus 3 practicals a week and 4 supervisions a week. So that's about maybe around 20 hours of contact time, maybe 25. Probably 25, close to 25. And then plus I had to study in my own time doing supervision work. So it was quite an intense course. It was really interesting. It was quite a hard year though for me. Like, I often worked late into the evening or like into the night, like until midnight, especially for math supervisions. It was also, I had an issue with my college during that year, and the pandemic started, so a lot of it was done online, a lot of it was done away from my friends, a lot of it was done like away from like my like supervisions were online. So it was just a very weird year and like a very difficult year, and that's on top of the already like really high workload that we had. So yeah, first year was like, if that didn't happen, it would have been a really interesting, really great, not necessarily great, but really interesting, really challenging year, which I would have enjoyed. But it was a bit more complicated than that, due to like other issues at the time. During that year, I also ran for president of welfare officer of a society, the LGBT plus society. So that was really interesting. I did that alongside my studies. So even though like it is a really intense course, it is definitely still possible to get involved in like extracurriculars. For example, I was, like I said, part of a society. I was part of another society as well in my college. So like there's a lot that I could get involved in. It was just like I really had to manage my time well. So second year was also really hard. I found it a lot more like I enjoyed it more, and because I got to choose kind of my subjects a bit more. For example, I dropped physics. Physics is interesting, but it just wasn't for me. And I picked up experimental psychology. So in my second year I did chemistry A, which was like physical chemistry, material science, and experimental psychology. And I really enjoyed this year. Like, it was hard again. Like, the workload was intense. We'd have 9 lectures a week, plus around 3 supervisions a week, plus 2 to 3 practicals a week. So it was still like a high level of like contact hours, plus a lot of studying outside of that for like supervision work. But it was a little bit less intense. Which was nice. And I also like became president of the society I was in my first year, and that was really enjoyable. Like, it was great going to like manage a committee and like having to do like all the work for it and attend all the meetings and like help with projects and stuff. So that was quite fun. Also, like, I didn't work anywhere near as late, and although like it was still, the pandemic was ongoing, so a lot was online, and like all my supervisions were online, most of my supervisions were online, and like some of my lectures were online. I did get some face-to-face contact, which was kind of nice. Especially I find it easier to learn face-to-face rather than online. Admittedly, like exam term for me was really hard. Like I got a bit unwell, and that was kind of threw everything off. But like the year as a whole was quite enjoyable, despite it still being really intense. So finally, I went into final year. That was my third year, and I did psychology in the end, which is so different from what I expected I was going to do. In psychology, we had about 5 lectures a week, plus around a few supervisions a week. It kind of varied week on week, and a practical-ish. Not so much a practical, but like I did a dissertation and a research project. So I had meetings around my dissertation and meetings around my research project. So like that kind of took over like some of the practical stuff I used to do. I also had to teach myself some coding because I hadn't done like more biological coding before. So that's what I had to do in my final year. So the psychology course at the time was very like heavily neuroscience-y, to kind of keep in that natural sciences element. So that was really interesting, and it was so different to what I expected. I used to think I didn't like biology, but biology was my least favorite science. But like doing psychology and this more neuroscience-y option was really interesting. Especially at the time, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to go into afterwards. So it was really nice to do something that was quite different to what I did in my first and second years, and had a lot more like essay writing, and a lot more, I suppose more like there was definitely critical thinking throughout. This involved like written critical thinking, like whereas in my earlier years it was very much like maths and like using equations and stuff like that. This was very different to that. I continued to be a committee member for a couple societies, maybe 3 actually, and I also ran to be a sabbatical officer at my students' union. But yeah, I've generally really enjoyed this year. I lived with all my friends, well, not all my friends, but a lot of my friends. Compared to second year, where I only lived with one friend, and in this year I got to do a lot of things I didn't get to do during the first 2 years due to the pandemic. Because in the my final year, it was a lot less intense. Like it was still important to be careful, but there was a lot more freedom. I remember having a barbecue in like the park opposite my house, which was really fun, and in the garden, which was really fun. So yeah, there was just a lot of things that I could do more, and like the course was still really intense, but it was really fun. Overall, natural sciences at Cambridge is a really hard and intense course. Like, it did take a lot out of me and required a lot of commitment. But at the same time, it was really interesting. It was a great opportunity to get like really into my subjects. And I got the choice to there was a lot of choice. So I got to choose what subjects I wanted to do. And in the end, I ended up doing something completely different to what I started off doing. So yeah, I think it's something that you have to think about for yourself if you want to go into a course that's really, really hard and like you'll be challenged. But it is really interesting, and like I met some great friends who I very much speak to today.